Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and my guest today is the New York Times best-selling author of the Markman series, and her novel Rule was just adapted into a film starring Chase Stokes, who you guys all know and love from Outer Banks, and Sydney Taylor. I'm so excited to welcome Jay Crownover today. Jay, how are you doing?
Great, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me. We got to start off with something that you just told me, though, before we started filming. You're a big horror fan.
Yeah, yeah. So Crownover is my mother's maiden name. My actual last name is Voorhees, a la Jason Voorhees, a la Friday the 13th, a la my Jason tattoo. And like, you can't see it, but I have a million like Friday the 13th things behind me. So yeah, like I not only like enjoy them, like I feel like I am part of them.
Oh my gosh, that's
Because
so cool.
I'm old enough now. When I was younger, I could call places and be like, my last name is Voorhees and not have to spell it and just be like Friday the 13th. But now, like, it's kind of, I'm old enough now, older Gen X, like, people don't get it. Like, sometimes the people see my tattoo and they're like, oh, are you a hockey fan? You like the Avalanche? And
Oh
I'm just like,
no.
wah, wah.
Oh my gosh, I'm really hoping that the rights issues with Friday the 13th get sorted out so we can get
Yeah.
some new movies and some series and stuff like that because we need it. We're missing some Jason Voorhees in our lives.
Ugh, right?
Oh my gosh.
Leave it
Well,
to me to carry on the legacy, and all I write about is kissing. So it doesn't really work.
well, you never know. You never know what you can get up to into the next film. Before we get into Rule and the Markman film, I was curious what your favorite movie that was adapted from a book is.
Oh, um, it's not necessarily romance, but I really like Gone Girl. I think it's one of the best adaptations from like book to movie. And I really like Dennis Lehane, so I really like Shutter Island and like Mystic River. Like I think a lot of and you know who's like currently doing great from book to like not film but TV, like all of Harlan Coben's that Netflix have picked up have honestly been awesome. Like, I don't know, because they're not US based, they're the production company and everything's overseas, but I enjoy all of them. And like my favorite romance, like adapted, whew, I don't know. I mean, I really like it's gonna sound crazy because Nick directed my movie, but I do really like The Notebook. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
who didn't love The Notebook like growing up? I mean, and even A Walk to Remember, I'm of that like
Yeah,
age where that was the romance movie that was adapted. So,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's quite a few, but I do tend to think I enjoy as a viewer thrillers adapted more than romance.
yeah. Gone Girl, when you mentioned Gone Girl, I was like, oh, that's it for me. That's number one for me.
Yep,
I am
it is.
obsessed with that movie.
They just I feel like it's so close to not only like the story in the book, but like the vibes in the book. You know what I mean? Like it
Mhm.
feels similar. Like you get a similar sensation, which I don't think happens very often.
No, I totally agree. And A Walk to Remember, oh my gosh, I've watched that movie more times than I can count. And The Notebook. All the ones you mentioned are great. Are
Yeah.
there any books out there that have not been adapted to film or television that you're like, oh, I hope this gets its turn next?
Uh, hmm, I don't know. I read pretty across the board. I mean, it's gonna sound like such a silly answer, but like, you know, everybody is adapting a lot of like boring cis white people romance when there's a really great like LGBTQ romance and POC romance across the board. So like it sounds like, a press answer, but really there is a lot of really great stuff out there that isn't just boy girl, typical kissy face stuff that has, comes from different cultures and comes from different sexualities and like still tells really, really compelling, interesting romance that I think don't get picked up and optioned as often as, two pretty white people kissing.
No, I totally agree with you. And that's the beautiful thing about literature is I feel like it's so diverse. And when these stories get adapted into Netflix series or into movies, it's just so nice to see, people of all different walks of lives, backgrounds, everything different, relationships get turned into these stories that we fall in love with on the screen.
Yeah, I'd like to see some like, I'm not a particular like dark romance fan reader per se, but like I would like not the far, far end of dark romance, but I do like anti-hero and like, like I would like some gritty romance adapted, like mafia stuff and like where like it's not just a Prince Charming and a princess. It's really like, the Princess and the Dragon. Like I
Mhm.
would like stuff with a little more, which, is one of the reasons Rule actually got adapted because it is along that edgier, more, you know, rougher side. It's not just a sweet love story.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. This question is very controversial among like book readers and film lovers, but do you prefer to read the book first or watch the movie first?
So I have really bad ADHD, which you're gonna find out the longer this conversation goes. So I'm very good at like splitting my attention span. So it's honestly indifferent to me. Like I generally have to do both because if I read the book, I'm going to miss something because I'll stop halfway to go do the dishes or walk the dog or like clean something and then go back and forget everything I just read. And I do the same thing with movies. So like I always usually have to do both to get the full story because my brain is just too speedy. Like I just don't focus. So I don't have a preference, but I do as an author, always think the book is better. Like it just always is better. But now that I've had a book turned into a movie, I understand why. Because you just have so much more time with a book and you have so much more to work with and you can have so many more words and you're not confined into this like little short thing that needs to fit in a 2 hour max. And like, some things that work amazing for a book to pull out emotion and like evoke feelings don't translate to film. So that, goes by the wayside. So I've learned a lot about why the book is better, but the book is always better.
Yeah, I could go either way also, I think, but I feel like if I haven't read the book yet and it's about to come out as a movie or a TV show, I'll watch it first and then I'll go out and get the book and read it. But if it's like a couple years away from being released, maybe I'll read the book first and,
Yeah.
get to know the whole story.
It's been interesting with Rule because he's very distinct. He's very much part of like my subculture when I was in my 20s. Like I was very much a punk rock girl and like a rockabilly chick. Like I was very, very into counterculture. So Rule very much embraces Gen X, like, crust core punk rock at the time that I was super into. So he looks a very specific way. So all my readers over the 10 years that have, loved him in the series and have like read all the books about his friends and then his kids, like they picture him a certain way. So like when the casting came out and stuff, they were like, he doesn't look like it. But all the people that like saw the movie and then have now been picking up the book are like, I don't understand why they're so mad about his hair. Like, so it's been interesting to see two sides of the coin that like,
Hmm.
the traditionalists that were like, he should look this way specifically. And then the people new to the book and series being like, oh, he's fine. Like, he's fine.
Yeah. No, no, no. I think you're right. That is very interesting to have your perspective on it as being the author and then getting to see, the before and the after and all the in between of
Yeah.
people, getting to experience your characters. What was the inspiration that led you to write this story as a book? Like what inspired you to sit down and say, I'm going to put these words to paper?
I was broke. I was going through a divorce. I was having a very, very difficult time. Very difficult time. And I've always been a voracious reader. My mom was a teacher and then a librarian. Like I never got like gifts other than books as a kid. Like she would buy me the whole set of Naturally Drew or the like Babysitter's Club. Like I just got books. Those were my gifts were. So I've always been a big reader. But when I was getting divorced, like it was tough. Like it was like on the verge of bankruptcy, on the verge of foreclosure. So like there was no money to do anything. Like so, there's no money to read. There was no money to go to the movies. There's no money to do anything. So all I did was work and I worked at a bar. And like because I was going through divorce, my brain, I told you already, ADHD was like spinning out of control. So like while the bartenders closed the bar down, I would sit at the bar and write. I was like, 'cause I couldn't read anything. So like I had this idea, like I'd always tinkered with stories. Like I was always a writer. Like my degree was in journalism, like my first degree when before I changed it halfway through. So like I had a foundation of being able to tell a story. And then like by the end of the year, like from the time my divorce started in July to the end of the year in December when I was officially divorced, I had just written a book. Like I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know if it was good, didn't know anything, but I had a completed book and at that time Amazon had just launched their self-publishing platform. So it's like I didn't have to send it to an agent, I didn't have to send it out to get like critiqued by a publishing house. Like I could just willy-nilly drunk on Bud Light one night at the bar, hit upload, and the next thing I know, I got a book on Amazon and people are reading it. A lot of people. So, yeah.
That's
I mean, it
incredible.
was like creativity born of chaos and like sadness. And like to this day, everybody will say Rules the best book, and like nothing I've read comes close to it, and nothing feels the same. And it's probably because my life stopped sucking after I wrote it. So like there'd never be another, like hopefully I will never be in that situation again. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it came about.
Oh my gosh. And when you were writing this book in the bar, did it ever cross your mind that one day people would be flocking to theaters to see your
No,
characters on the big screen? Isn't that crazy
no.
to think?
Yeah, like I didn't even know, I didn't even plan to write more than one book. I just had this book done and wanted to do something with it because my life was in the toilet, and I was like, it was I mean, I don't care like if you write something and you get to the end, like I don't care if it's like a novella, a short story, a full novel, like that's amazing. It is not easy to write a book. It is not easy to make a whole world out of your head. Like it should be celebrated. So like I published it literally on New Year's Eve. So on the 31st, I got up the next morning and like looked at my thing, and I was like, oh, people are reading. Oh, it was like number 2 in the Amazon store. And people were like, where did this girl come from? What is this book about? Like, this is edited terribly because I didn't know what I was doing. They were like, it was crazy. So like I didn't plan on more than one book. I definitely didn't plan on a series. I never planned on signing with an agent or a publisher. Like I never planned on international copies and like global like book events. Like definitely never planned on a movie. Like I just sort of, you know, fell into it and then took the ball and ran with it.
Oh my gosh, that's such an incredible, inspiring story.
It's wild. It's like I don't think it happens. I mean, it does happen now, but it's different now because of book talk. So
Mm,
there are like authors that are just overnight blown up because TikTok, takes whatever they're doing and like amplifies it to millions and millions. So it's not completely unheard of, but I feel like that's a much harder avenue to go than mine did because it was the advent. You know what I mean? When I was uploading then, I think the statistics were like 5,000, 5,500 books a day were getting uploaded. Now it's upwards of like, I think they say 100,000 books a day getting uploaded.
oh my
And
gosh.
now, and we're competing with AI. So who knows of that 100,000, how many are even people writing them?
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
that's like a insane number. I can't even wrap my head
I don't know
around
that
it.
those, don't quote me on that. Nobody use that as like, like, don't quote me then. I
You
just
heard
know
it
it's
here
a very
first.
large number.
Yeah, but oh, I can't even imagine. So can you walk me through the steps of how your book became a movie? Like who reached out to who and what was the process like?
Um, so, uh, the reason my book is a movie because of a reader, a woman named Hallie Kesselman. Her father was in hospice and he was really ill, and she was reading the series while she was spending time with him. Like she was just a reader, a romance reader, and she spent that last time while he was still with her, like reading the series. So it was like really like emotional for her, and she had a big attachment to it. Well, Hallie just happens to be married to a man named Josh Kesselman, who is a producer. Like he did The Great, like he's done a bunch of stuff. Like he works with Giancarlo Esposito, and like he did the one Emma Stone just won.
Poor things?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, he's like Josh is a big deal. So and Hallie just happens to be married to Josh. So Hallie was like, "Hey, like can you reach out to the author of these books?" Like she's like there's nothing like them because at that time I just told somebody else this, like there was 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight and then like new adult, and I was like nowhere near either of those spectrums. And it wasn't like now where romance is being picked up left and right. Like it was like you were very lucky if somebody even wanted to look at your stuff in Hollywood, but it was probably not going to go anywhere. So I was at a book fair in London with my mom, and I got a call from my agent. She's like, this man, Josh, he's in Hollywood, wants to talk to you about." And I thought it was a joke. So I was just like, yeah, right. So I kind of blew it off because I was in London and there wasn't much I could do about it. But then my agent called me back the next day. She's like, well, he wants a phone meeting. Like, can we set this up? And I was like, oh, he's serious. So yeah, so we talked about it. And like usually the next step is a shopping agreement where they pay you to hold on to the rights for X amount of years to try and get something made. But because like Hallie was a reader and like she was so earnest and like really so connected, I was like, I didn't want to do that. I was like, you take it, see what you can do with it. Like, let's all just get paid if something happens. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel right to take money with things not certain. I don't know why. I'm just telling you, it's my brain is crazy. But anyway, so then Josh took it, and then for years things were to be up and things would be down and things would be up
Mm.
and things would be down and things would be up and things would be down. Like there were so many false starts and almost. And then Josh went to work with Sharon Sobel, who wrote the screenplay. And then when he started managing her, she agreed to write a screenplay for it on spec, so for free, like that she would get paid once it's sold. And I don't think she would have done that if Josh hadn't been like I will, I promise, if you do this, everybody will get paid. Like I think all of us just trusted that Josh loved Hallie enough that he was going to make it happen no matter what. But sure enough, as soon as she was done with the script, like, and we went back and forth. Like she wrote the first script, and it was very good. Like it was pretty clear, close to the book. Like, but then I was like, I would change these things, and then I sent it back, and then she sent it to me again, and I was like, I would change a couple of these things, and then I sent it back, and then that was like, okay. So then they sent it to Voltage, and Voltage loved it as soon as they got it. So then as soon as they sent it to Voltage, things just like took off.
So at what point did you find out that the film adaptation of your best-selling novel was going to be directed by the same director, Nick, as The Notebook?
Uh, After the casting came out. So like after I
Oh,
knew it was
wow.
Chase and Sydney, and after like they had like yeah it was why they knew before this I because I think that's why Chase and them was one of the reasons they signed on for it
Mhm.
was because they knew Nick was going to be there, but I didn't know until after. And then I was like, holy crap. I was like, that's like you just kind of, I mean, especially if you're my age, like in, my generation, like The Notebook is legendary.
Yeah.
It is a legendary romance novel. But if you know what Nick Cassavetes looks like it's crazy because he's like giant and covered in tattoos and looks like he should be on the set of Sons of Anarchy. So it's wild that he's the one that is like crafting these nuanced, delicate, you know, romances. And then he called me before they started filming, before they left for Bulgaria. And the first thing he said was, he's like, "Hey, I'm Nick. Sorry, I'm gonna swear a lot." And I was like, "It's fine. Oh, I'm from New York. I'm gonna swear a lot."
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, like
That's so
it
cool.
was crazy. I was just like, wow. And then I felt kind of relieved because I felt like one of my biggest fears when selling the rights was they were going to make it like like I keep saying like a prince princess romance. Like I
Mm.
didn't want them to make Rule nice. Like I didn't want them to tone down everything, his trauma and his depression and his guilt. Like I didn't want them to make him soft and palatable for the masses. Like I
Mhm.
wanted him to stay who he was. And like Nick was very much like, "Oh yeah. No, 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 we're going to do that. Don't worry."
Oh,
You know.
that
So,
is
and
great.
then he told me he liked the book. He said he enjoyed it very much. And I was like,
Oh,
I don't know if you really read it, but I will take that to the grave with me.
yeah, that's such high praise. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine having a novel and then who else would you want to direct it at that point? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
someone that's going to help do the adaptation and put it on the big screen in front of everybody.
Yeah,
Can't
especially a
go better
romance
than that.
novel. Like
Yeah.
especially a romance novel. So yeah, I was very, I mean, I'm still like even and Jen Gibgot, one of the producers, like she made Step Up, which is one of my favorite movies of all
Oh,
time.
wow.
I love dance movies. But
Yeah.
like everybody involved was somebody that like just like, nostalgia like tickled that part of my heart and my brain that I was like, this is the best.
Ah, that's incredible. So, as we have mentioned, Chase Stokes and Sydney Taylor are the stars of the film. What was it like getting to see the two of them portray the characters that you created?
Um, it's it's the weird part of it is they've done a lot of press. So like seeing other people talk about Rule and Shaw with like authority, like, Rule would do this and he feels this and she does this and she knows it's so weird because they just live in my head
Mhm.
and they're just like my imaginary friends, but now they're not. Now they're also Chases and Sydneys. You know what I mean? So it's been very surreal to watch him like talk about being Rule is like another person when he's always just been a figment of my imagination. But I enjoyed them together. Like I think they had great chemistry, and I enjoyed how much of the original character they brought, but also their own. Like I think Sydney is a little more sassy than real the Shaw in the book, but like in a good way. Like I like her. I feel like she has more like gumption. It's an old word, but like you know what I mean. Like she's not as much of a pushover, I guess, as real Shaw is. Like I feel, or Shaw in the book is, and I think Chase is more sensitive and like more empathetic than Shaw
Mhm.
or Rule in the book is, because every interview I've watched with him as this process has gone on, I just think he's a real empathetic, kind, like understanding dude in real life. And I think he brought that part of him to Rule, which he does not have in the book. So I appreciated, some of the nuances that they added from their own selves into the characters.
Yeah, no, that's incredible that they can, add themselves into these characters and that it's something that you appreciate and,
Yeah.
it adds value to the characters that you created.
Yeah. And like Alexander as Rome, like I think they did such a good job with their brother dynamic. And then Ella as Aiden, her and Shaw's girlhood, like their girly friendship is my favorite part of the whole movie. Like
Oh,
that carries like the whole thing. Like, that is like I like that relationship as much as I like the romance relationship. So I think, yeah, the whole cast together combined it as an ensemble really sold it, like really made it what the book is about.
oh, that's amazing. How
Yeah.
did you celebrate the release of the film?
I was so busy. I did a screening with my friends and family in Colorado. I was
Oh,
supposed to go to the premiere the day before that, but they canceled because of the fires. But honestly, thank God I got asthma. I would have died
oh my
trying to
gosh,
get
yeah.
in and out of LA. Um, and then I went to Texas because most of my closest friends and like my assistant and my team is in Texas. So we did a big event in Austin, like a private screening for 100 and some people. So yeah, I was driving and running all around the place, and then like yeah, just it was just so nice to have it out and like not not have it be only my thing. I get to share it with all the people I care about now. So
Oh, very cool. Okay, so you mentioned you're from Colorado. I
I
have a
am.
question, and I don't remember the name of the place off the top of my head, but my aunt and uncle used to live in Colorado, and we would go visit them every summer. And they would take us to a restaurant with a giant chicken, and there was like a petting zoo, and they had hush puppies. Do you know the name of this place?
Giant chicken, like a metal chicken.
Yeah, it was like a giant chicken structure. I think it was called like Great White Picket Fence or something like that. Do you remember this at
Do you
all?
know what city it's in Colorado?
No, and it's driving me nuts, but I used to go there like every summer, and that's the one place I remember as a kid
I'd
from
have to Google it.
Colorado.
I thought it was going to be Casa Bonita. I thought you were going to be like, it's
Oh,
the giant
no,
pink one. And I was like, I would be like, Casa Bonita. But no, I don't know
no.
the giant chicken. I'd have to Google it.
Okay, I don't think it exists anymore. So I was just wondering if you knew about it, but I will say
I mean,
Casa
that must be a
Bonita.
thing though, because there's like a fancy steakhouse down on my end of town where I'm
Uh,
at that has a giant chicken outside of it too. Like, it must be a Colorado thing I just don't know about.
that's hilarious. But Casa Bonita, I am dying to go there because I'm a huge South Park fan, and I
Yeah.
joined their waiting list. I think like I got an email this morning from them saying I can sign up, I think, to go. Oh, I would love to go there.
Yeah, I would like to see all the revamped like stuff, but yeah, I'm not patient enough to.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can't talk about Markman and Rule without talking about tattoos, something we have in common. I have, I think, 15 tattoos. Mine are very small, like they're on my hands and on my fingers and spread out everywhere. Do you have a favorite tattoo?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a lot. I said I've got my Voorhees for my last name. I've got Rule's Sacred Heart from the first
Oh,
book, which turned into my logo. I've got like these flowers on my hands that my best friend also has. I've got my dogs everywhere. I don't know. I've got a lot. Yeah. I don't know that I like any one more than I just got a big jackalope on the back of my leg, like a big old jackalope, but he's like fancy. Like he has a monocle and a bow tie. I love it.
so cool. I think my favorite tattoo, no, I know my favorite tattoo is my boyfriend and I have matching windmills
Ah.
because we love solving. It's like a little Danish town a couple hours north of where I live. And yeah, it was like our first trip together. So we got matching windmill
It's
tattoos.
a Danish town in California.
Yes,
Oh, it has
solving.
windmills?
Yeah, it has not as many as it used to have, but it has a few left. So we
Oh,
got matching tattoos
that's so
like the
fun.
following year.
Actually, my tulips are from traveling in Europe with my bestie, like the black tulips that are in Norway. So,
Oh,
yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, I have a lot. I have more tattooed skin than untattooed skin at this
Oh my
point.
gosh, it's addicting. When I got my first one, I was terrified. And then once I was like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it would be, I ended up getting, I think like five or six within the span of like a few months.
Well, but see, now I'm old. I think they suck. Like I am so uncomfortable. Like I can sit. I used to be able to sit for hours and hours. Now I'm like 2, 3 hours done.
Oh my
Like,
gosh. Yeah, I don't think I can get any more because I think the older you get, the more they hurt. And I was also told the longer you go between getting them, the more they hurt. And
oh,
it's been a few years. So I'm like, I think I'm okay.
Well, I'm at the point now where I have to start getting mine touched up because they've started to fade. So like I had to get all this done and I just had to retouch up this one and that feels like garbage.
Oh no.
Uh,
Oof. Do you have any advice for someone who is considering getting their very first tattoo?
I mean, it's so silly. Like, I should be like, oh, make sure it's something that you're okay with forever. But honestly, just get it. You can cover it up. It'll fade. Like, just do it. Just do what makes you happy. Just make sure you go to someplace clean. Like,
Mhm.
that's the main thing. Like, I mean, I mean, be like, make sure do your research and find a skilled artist. But like, whatever. Just make sure you don't get a disease. Like, make sure they're
Yes.
clean and they work in an accredited shop and like, make sure you take care of it well after it heals or it's gonna scab and look awful. But I mean, I started getting tattooed when I was 16. I had no idea. My first tattoo, I have a huge tattoo in the center of my back. It's an angel and a devil, and the devil looks like Tim Armstrong from Operation Ivy because I had a crush on him when I was a teenager.
Oh my gosh, that's
And now
great.
I'm almost 50 and I still have him on my back. So
Oh, that's great. Jay, before we go, is there anything that you're currently working on that you're allowed to talk about?
well, I'm hoping everybody goes and sees the first movie so we can get the second one, like trying to peer pressure them to like tell
Mhm.
everybody that we want Jet. Because how could you leave it on that cliffhanger? I was like, I can't believe they left my movie on a cliffhanger. And they
Oh
have
my
such good
gosh.
chemistry. But you know what's funny? Like people that know about the series, like originally in the books, Aiden was supposed to end up with Nash. But then when I was writing it, like kind of like in the movie, her and Jet just had great chemistry and they ended up being the second book. But yeah, so other than that, then I'm just writing. I'm always writing. Like, making movies isn't my job, writing books is my job. So I'm just finishing up. I'm getting ready to wrap up. I wrote a romantic suspense about a girl named Lucky who's very unlucky.
Oh my
I
gosh.
just thought it was super funny. Like her name is Lucky Fortune, but she's like literally the luckiest, unluckiest girl ever in the whole world because it made me laugh. So that's the whole premise of the book.
Oh, very exciting. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that. Where would be a good place for people to follow you and keep up with all your upcoming projects?
Probably Instagram because I don't TikTok very much. And then I have a readers group on Facebook called Crownover's Crowd, which is the best place because I don't really internet a lot, but I do internet in there quite a bit. And it's like one-on-one interaction. So if
Oh,
you want to talk
nice.
about the movie or have questions, it's the best place to ask.
Very nice. Well, Jay, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join me. Congratulations on all this success. And everybody, just so you know, right now the film is available to pre-order on Apple TV Plus. So if you didn't get a
Yeah,
chance to see it in theaters, you can pre-order it now. It'll be out later this month. And go support this film so we can get that sequel.
it should be coming on other platforms. I just don't know when and where. But yeah, yeah,
Keep,
thank you.
yeah.
Yes. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And
Thanks
it
for
was
having
very
me.
nice to meet you. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I got to figure out how to
Bye.
turn all this off.
Oh my God. Bye.